right, Ammon. So when a DOS or DDoS attack starts, there are three ways that we can respond. We can choose to absorb the attack, ouch, degrade service, or shut down the service. To absorb the attack, we will have to have additional capacity. Now, this requires planning earlier and having the solution implemented. Right. Now, it's easier to say to add additional resources, but we will have to be conscious of the direct and ongoing costs associated with the addition of capacity. You know, we're talking about computing, storage, network equipment, standby servers, replication of data, all of those things that we have to look at.
It's a lot of considerations.
Absolutely. So coming to degrading the services, it is possible that we may not be able to keep all the services up and running while an attack is taking place. So an assessment of critically business functionality and supporting IT infrastructure needs to take place, and then a strategy arrived at for the responses in case of a DOS attack. So a little homework needs to be done here. Also, we need to put in place the customizations required to have only a subset of services, in other words, critical ones being available while the remaining are grounded. Things to consider.
That's a lot to consider. Now, when damage seems to go beyond our control, it's best to shut down all our services in a planned way and then restore to normalcy in a phased manner. So we take our time and work through it. There are many ways to mitigate the effects of a DDoS attacks. Remember that there is no easy way and no single way to provide protection against all the attacks. And as the attackers come up with new attacks and new types, then we also have to work to protect against these and then proactively be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared is a good motto across the board, isn't it?
That's right.
Now, there are various countermeasures that we can take. Now, one of the key things would be to protect secondary targets by, in essence, cordoning off the attack area, insulating it, right, and keeping it safe.
Kind of quarantining it.
Yeah.
The individual users and their machines can become prospective agents or zombies. So therefore, we must create and intensify security awareness among users and then continuously monitor their security to protect secondary targets. Checks must be carried out to ensure no agent programs have been installed and no DDoS agent traffic has been sent into the network. Installing antivirus and anti-Trojan software and then keeping them up to date is going to help in this effort, in addition to patching software with known vulnerabilities. Now, it's quite a lot of work for the IT operators teams, so a network and internet service providers can monitor traffic and establish rules of usage for the chargeback mechanism. Now, they can create an awareness of the implications of high usage of network resources, and they can make a user carefully look at the traffic going out of his or her machine. The provider should also send usage statistics to users to help identify abnormalities in traffic flow.
Yeah, the more information you have, the better you can be prepared.
Absolutely.
Now, next is to detect and neutralize the handlers. This will involve analyzing the traffic flow from and to by looking at the source address. Now, we can look at identifying the handlers and neutralizing them. When a handler is neutralized, the agents associated with the handler will also get neutralized, and the intensity of the attack would be reduced to an extent. Now, finally, the third consideration would be to detect and prevent potential DDoS attacks by using ingress filtering, egress filtering, and TCP intercepts.
That's right. Those are all good concepts to look at. Now, ingress filtering cannot stop attacks from valid prefixes or known IP addresses. It prohibits an attacker from launching attacks from forged source addresses. Now, this filtering helps us to trace the originating address. Now, in egress filtering, IP packet headers leaving the network are scanned to check if they meet the valid criteria. Packets that meet the criteria will be allowed to go outside of the network. Many DDoS packets with spoofed IP addresses can be discharged, so egress filtering does not allow unauthorized or malicious traffic from leaving the home network. Now, even in case of zero-day attacks, by applying proper egress filtering, we can disallow our server from establishing a connection back to the attacker. That's a really good technique.
Very good, yeah. And TCP intercept is intended to protect TCP servers from SYN flooding attacks. TCP intercept software intercepts the SYN packets sent by the client and establishes a connection with the client if a match is found in the access list. Now, similarly, the software tries to establish a connection with the destination server on behalf of the client. Once both half connections are established, the software combines them into a connection.
That's right.
And this way, the TCP intercept prevents fake client connection requests from ever reaching the server at all.
That's right. Now, the fourth measure would be then to deflect the attack. Systems with limited security setups are known as honeypots. Now, honeypots are set up to attract attackers and then get to really know their footprints and take preventative measures to protect the main server. Honeypots are used to divert the attention of the attackers to these instead of the main server. So we're setting these up so that we can try and focus their attention over here. Now, something to be considered here is that there are two types of honeypots: low interaction honeypots and high interaction honeypots. An example of a high interaction honeypot is HoneyNet. HoneyNets are the infrastructure that simulate the complete layout of an entire network of computers, including decoys, and it will capture attack details.
Makes me think of the Winnie the Pooh thing, getting caught in the honeypot set out there on purpose. The fifth measure is to mitigate attacks by load balancing or bandwidth throttling, increasing the bandwidth in case of an attack or replicating the server model so that the load can be balanced and network performance enhanced. It can be a good consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
In bandwidth throttling, routers are set up to access a server based on logic to adjust the incoming traffic to levels that will be safe for the server to handle. Now, I have to say this, the flip side of this will be that genuine requests can sometimes be dropped as an attack. It's an overly conservative approach.
Yeah.
Now, the sixth measure is analyzing the after effects of an attack. In other words, forensic analysis of traffic flow. Now, it's something to remember. After an attack, that info can be gathered and can be used to prevent further attacks. The more you know, the better prepared you can be.
Absolutely.
And data that can be analyzed is routers, firewalls, ID logs, traffic pattern analyses, etc. So based on the analysis, one could decide on preventative measures. Also, important to think about, when an attack takes place and the existing security measures cannot do anything, then you consider running Zombie Zapper, which can stop the system from being flooded by packets.
Now, before we move on to the next topic, let me say just a little bit more about DoS and DDoS countermeasures. So these can be any of the following: an efficient encryption mechanism, right? Improved routing protocols, disabling unused and insecure services, blocking all inbound packets from service ports to block traffic from reflection servers, updating kernels with the latest patches, preventing fraudulent packets from transmitting at the ISP level, implementing cognitive radios in the physical layer to handle jamming and scrambling types of attacks.
All good things.
Those are all good ways that we can look at countermeasures.